In this video, we will show you how to create a new schedule in Sitedrive. First, let's create a site. In Sitedrive, a construction site may contain multiple projects or project spaces. This enables flexibility for managing the whole process from design to delivery. Now we create just the production phase here. All the schedule data within the project phase is linked together. This next step is to create the space model for the project. Here I'll import pre-made space model. In practice, this space model means about describing your project structure in a physical way. Ideally, the space model should reflect the actual building as detailed as possible. Nevertheless, the space model can be refined later if, for example, there are design changes. Here we describe the work times and their exceptions. The work time exception means, for example, a public holiday when no one is working at the site. These exceptions are then excluded from the project schedule so that no work is scheduled on them. You can also add timeline notes if you wish to highlight certain days in your schedule. Then we are almost ready with the setup. The last step is to create your first schedule view. In Sitedrive, the schedule views are always connected to the location breakdowns. By default, Sitedrive auto-generates 4 location breakdowns based on your space model. Additionally, users can create their own breakdown based on their needs. For example, if you want to schedule some work only to certain parts of projects, you need to create additional breakdown, which includes only the space grouped into the locations that you want to schedule tasks on. For example, here we create only tasks to the bathrooms, and that's why we remove all other rooms from the location breakdown structure. Then let's move on to actual scheduling. Here I have a blank project, and in this video I'm going to use import for adding the tasks. Next thing is to create the workspace hierarchy, as it didn't come in the import. But this is easy just by indenting tasks that you want into those places. This import basically just included the task sequences for each phase, and now we are going to adjust the schedule based on them. In case we need to refine the schedule, we can of course do so directly here. In Sitedrive, you always have to use the schedule view with the locations that you actually want to schedule. For example, now I need to switch the schedule view to the dry rooms because I don't want tasks to go anywhere else than there. Now that we have assigned first locations for our task, we can move on to location-based views to refine the schedule. Here, we can refine the schedule by changing the times. It's easier to, for example, use these slots to get the schedule grouping properly. And once we are done with the schedule, we can easily copy tasks that we want to next locations. For example, if there will be just these tasks ongoing in the area 1 and 2, we can add them there. And actually, let's take the full schedule here and add these properties here. Now we moved on to our structural view. We can start scheduling the actual structural work. First, let's put the footings on the correct spot. Then we can grab the whole sequence that we have here and drag it to the correct spot where we can actually start building the first floor. Now we can hide this to get us really focusing on the actual structural tasks. Here we have a typical sequence for a precast concrete frame. And because everything looks correct, we can just start copying these tasks to next floors. Now we can move on to scheduling the apartment-specific tasks. In this view, we can see all the tasks that were assigned to these locations earlier. Now the next thing is to really build up the floor-specific sequences and to copy them to subsequent floors. First, we need to adjust the sequence. Remember, tasks have to be scheduled in a view that has their locations. For example, now, if I want to schedule the floor screening, plastering, and painting on a floor level, but exclude the bathrooms there. So I can go just the bathroom view and delete these tasks and move on to all activities view where I can adjust the schedule for the rest of these. Then we can continue refining our location-specific sequences. Now that we have refined the location-specific schedules, we can move back to all activities view. Things might look a bit hectic, but we can use, for example, the filters to really see the only information we need to schedule the next tasks. For example, here we need to know when we might start this first phase. Then we can do the same thing for all the phases. Once we are happy with the floor level schedule, we can copy it all to the next floors. Again, editing can be continued here. high-level adjustments can be done in any view. For example, if I want to start these tasks a bit earlier, I can just grab them and move them to work locations. And all the changes reflect back to different views, like this. So now we have created the detailed schedule for this project. Of course, as always, the schedule should be reviewed and refined with the project team. In Sitedrive, editing is so easy that you can make the adjustments during your meetings.